Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Third Half Live podcast by the FCS Live team. I'm Jared Kleppo along with Gerard Ascana, your host tonight. And Gerard, we have a very exciting plan and things slated out for the night tonight.
Yeah, fantastic lineup tonight. We're going to start off hot, and it's going to keep going.
We are bringing on two special guests tonight. We will be chatting with Julianie Campos of Ginga FS later on. And we will also be recapping the games from this past week. But first, we welcome our special guest from Midwest United. It's goalkeeper Jose Vicario. Jose, thank you so much for taking the time to come out to Lansing and be here with us.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me. I was super excited when Gio reached out. He's like, "Oh, FCS wants to have you on your podcast. Let's go, man. Let's do it." I'm a big fan of what you guys are doing, so I'm excited to be here today.
Well, we're excited to have you. Gerard, I know I've been giving you the last word in a lot of these podcasts. How about the first question?
First question. So as we were going through the stats and backdating for almost the entire time, you were league leader in saves. How did that feel to know that you were at the top and to see that on the leaderboard?
It feels great. Like when I saw that, it was kind of like an ego booster. I saw the numbers and I'm like, dang, like I'm putting in a lot of work this season, and I was coming off an injury as well, so my season was doubtful to begin with, and then to be able to overcome that and then see those stats, it was a huge ego booster. Super excited to continue this trend going into the playoffs and hopefully a final. But I mean, I love seeing those stats. You know, it's all credit to my team as well, who helps me, who gives me the reps, who beats on me at practice sometimes. But you know, it's all worth it at the end.
You know, talking about your team, let's go back to coming into the year when you guys started this year. You guys were in the FCS last year, and you played on that team. And you guys made it to the finals, correct?
Yeah, final.
Okay, made it to the finals and lost to Detroit Imperial, right? So that was like the most recent memory you guys had coming into this year. What was that like, that offseason, preparing for the league this year, after that finals loss?
Yeah, I think one, just getting all the guys together, we knew we wanted to create a competitive atmosphere. We knew that whoever we were bringing onto the team, they were going to be up to the challenge, not just professionally, but skill-wise as well, because we weren't just going to compete this year. We weren't just going to come out, play games, and just have kickbacks and do it for fun. No, we're here. We have an objective. We want to win. Finals, yeah, we ended up losing, but it's part of the game. And I think a couple of us took that personally. We weren't happy with the result. We wanted to win that final. I think it's a big motivator for the returning players this year. Now that it's in reach again, so we definitely want to compete and create that competitive environment. So I think Gio's been doing a phenomenal job with that, and the guys are going after it at practice. We're going after each other. It's hot sometimes, but I love it. It's the environment we need, and he's done a phenomenal job creating that.
Talking about the players that came in, Miguel Cervantes, yeah. He's a new keeper, yeah. And he came in partway through the season.
Yeah, it was like halfway, yeah.
How did that change your approach?
No, like I mentioned, it didn't change my approach at all. I knew I wasn't going to be the only keeper. I was hoping I wasn't the only keeper, just because it's really what allows me to excel. It pushes me. It's one of those things where I see a keeper coming after my spot, and it's gonna push me. I see him or whoever it is make a great save, and I feel pressure to make a great save as well. Okay, like that's how we're gonna play. So it's the same thing in game. He has a great half. I want to have a great half. So I was really happy that we were able to bring in a quality keeper like Miguel, and then we have phenomenal keepers like Andre and Marcos, who's one of our training keepers, but they push me just as much. They're fantastic goalkeepers who, they're very, very young. They're our academy players, so huge shout out to them to be able to get into these halves and put up the stats that they're putting up and compete in this men's level program. So it's a great atmosphere between the keepers practice.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know that's something that is so key to a team, and the culture is what that culture actually is in training. And you kind of spoke about that. A question right from the chat right away. Jose, do you coach any teams? And if so, what are your coaching strategies?
Yeah, absolutely. Big shout out to my first my futsal teams. I got my 11 boys and then my 12 girls. And then outdoor, I have my 2016 boys. Biggest thing for me is be creative. I love to see my teams take initiative and want to take players on. And be creative because, there's a lot of coaches out there who are now just kind of strictly by the book and they're more tactical with let's pass here, let's move this, let's do that. But biggest thing for me is I want to see them be creative and be individually creative on the ball. How can I get out of these tight spaces? How can I, move the ball forward using my skills? And then being aggressive is something. I love my players being aggressive and not being afraid to get into a tackle or get into a position where you might have to throw your body on the line to get the ball back or to score. But all credits to my teams. They're all four of them phenomenal teams. I love every second. It's one of my favorite things about Midwest is I get to coach teams of this quality. Who we just have a fantastic academy program, whether that's futsal or outdoor. We have the best of the best, and I think it shows that we have these academy players that play in men's division, whether that's our outdoor teams playing with USL. For us, the men's team, 50% of our rosters probably are academy players, active academy players, I should say, who are still, 17, 18 years old, 19 years old. And that just speaks a lot about the quality at Midwest and the quality of the coaches that they're doing all that work and allowing us to have these players on the men's level teams.
Speaking of quality of the players, one of the things that I'm interested to know your perspective, you're a top goalkeeper in the league. When you look at the conversation we had a couple weeks ago where we talked about the best goalkeepers in the league, how do you assess a goalkeeper? Like even outdoor, indoor as a coach, like how do you assess a goalkeeper in futsal and their quality?
I think one, you just got to be explosive. I think that's one of the things I love about futsal is the keeper has to be involved throughout the entire game. You can't just be a keeper, save a shot here or two, like you do in soccer where you might touch the ball 5 times. You have to be explosive. You have to be willing to start counterattacks. And most importantly, you have to be athletic. You got to be flexible. You got to be able to get down low very, very fast. One of the things is courage too, though. I mean, those balls are coming in hot. You can't shy away from balls. You can't, be nervous or you can't kind of duck your head sometimes. I'm not gonna lie, I've done it a couple of times because those things are coming at you crazy. But just being a leader too, especially. I think if you have a weak keeper, you have a weak chain, obviously, and a lot can go bad. I think you have to have composure throughout the entire game because it's a very critical role. You make a little mistake and you let that haunt you, you're gonna have a horrible game, and it's gonna reflect for your entire team.
So on a scale from 1 to 10, what level of crazy do you need to be a goalkeeper in futsal?
11. 11. Yeah. No one woke up one day and said, I want to be a keeper today. Like, it's just, like, for me, it just happened. My dad threw me into the position. I just started that ever since. I didn't want to be a goalie. But, I loved it because of the craziness. It's not a position where somebody just wants to play. There's a lot of players who jump in that for fun and like they end up hating it, or they're like, how do you do this? And I'm like, I don't know how I do this either. But you got to have some sort of craziness in your mind going up there to want to step in and to like stop a shot, like Jeremy's shot. You got to be a little crazy to get in front of that. Yeah,
you do. I've stepped in net in some trainings before with him when I played, so I would definitely get the athletic tape around my wrists, and I'd be doing this to block with my palms and a little bit of this. Jen commented in the chat, the best level of crazy. That's what she likes. She likes that level 11 crazy. We talked about how you guys came off last year with the loss to Imperial. So take me to, it's early November, late October. You guys are getting ready for the start of the FCS season. What are those? What are the practices like? What are the team conversations like? Reflecting on the past year and coming in, getting ready for this next one. You guys probably when you're like a week out from a game and you got your squad there, give us a little peek at what that was like, when Midwest United futsal team started the season.
Yeah, I think for the men's, it was a lot of conditioning for the first few practices, I should say. It wasn't anything crazy, but it was definitely get us in shape first. And then after that was understand the expectations. Again, kind of piggybacking off what I said earlier, it was knowing that we were going to be in a competitive environment, that it's not a team where you can kind of just show up and do half the work and expect to play. It's not a just kickback program or anything. We're here to compete. We're going to be here to showcase our skills and show that Midwest is one of the top futsal programs, and hoping to be one of the top futsal programs. And it's going to be a huge stepping stone too for our youth players to have a team to look up to, to have something to look forward to. That hey, like if I compete and I do what I can do best, I can maybe play on the men's team one day. But no, it was just mainly setting those objectives, understanding what our role was this season. And if you weren't up for the challenge, the door was always open, and every single guy stayed because they want to compete. They have the heart to do it. They want to win. Everybody wants to win on this team. We're not happy with ties. We're not happy with loss. And I think Gio did a phenomenal job getting the players who have those standards, that they don't take anything less than a win. And if we lose, how do we get back? How do we go back to the drawing board? Look at our mistakes, and just start over. It's okay to start over for us sometimes and just change some things up. But we've been able to learn from our mistakes a lot, and I'll credit to Gio again, who's done a phenomenal job leading us, and we'll do anything to get to where we have to be and to win the league this year.
It makes me think about last season. What's different from last season to this season?
I think definitely we're more tactic based. With Gio's knowledge, is he's able to provide a lot of more insight and a lot more direction. So we're running plays, we're understanding what we have to do in our role. How do we start counters? How do we kind of how to deal with every situation. So that's been a huge help for the team this year.
Yeah, love to hear that. It's really cool. We had Fikra on the show, and to hear just the similarities in his experience and yours, especially with Gio. We've had a chance to really understand like what Gio adds to the team. What are you thinking the impact's going to be going into this game against Ginga?
I mean, we're just going to stick to what we've been doing all season, realistically. I think one of the things is our composure is going to be the biggest thing. I know I've missed the last two trainings due to injury. That's one of the reasons I wasn't at the last game. But I know nothing's changed from the beginning of the season. We've treated every single training session as if we're heading into a final. And that's just the standards that we have here with the team. We're here to compete. We're here to give it everything we have. Like if you're not willing to go all out at practice, sometimes it's best to step aside. Because those are the things that we're working on. Have to have these things. And I think we've been doing a great job all season. So I think why change anything right now? Just continue the trend that we have, continue to get better, obviously, and then just hope for a good result on the 22nd.
That kind of progressing through the season. How do you feel like you guys ended up 6-2-2, 6 wins, 2 losses, 2 ties. You talked about not being happy with anything but a win, and you guys happen to be the team that had the most ties as well this year. How did this season for you and your team either meet or not meet expectations?
I think obviously we want to be first place. But I think we're in a position that does reflect our work. We've had games that we should have won. I think those are the moments we can look at it as a little bit of a disappointment. But it's part of the game. We have high standards. We want to be undefeated. But at the end of the day, it's part of the game. Sometimes the best teams lose games. And it's just how do we bounce back from that? I think one of the biggest things that we can look at as still being a successful season is, okay, we failed in this area, but what did we do to back? So we can even honestly take a loss and look at it as a success throughout the season, because how did we turn that game or going into the next game? How did we turn it around? So I think we've been having a successful season. I think, there's still 2 games. I like to say we have 2 games left. So it's all going to come down to how we finish. We're in a positive trend right now. Can we continue going? Can we keep going?
Yeah.
We have the players to do it. We have the coach that can do it for us as well. So I think it's going to be very exciting going into these next.
What do you think was, you had to think about highest moment of the season and lowest moment of the season, you and the team? What would you select as highest and lowest moment?
The highest, I would definitely say, it's definitely going to be getting our first win. I think that's always a positive for it, because that's really what gets you going. Having that first win, allowing us to then trend forward with every progressing game that came along. That's always going to be a positive. I think definitely our lowest was that defeat that we took to Ole. But again, like I said, it's those mistakes that we made that allow us to learn. We go back, we look at that game. We did a lot of stuff wrong. We did do a lot of stuff wrong. But we have the guys on the team who are professional enough to be coachable and to know, okay, I messed this up. Now we go back, we work at it at practice, and we just move forward from there.
Yeah. Speaking of moving forward, a question from the chat that I'm interested to know as well. Is the national team call-up something you're aspiring to?
Not right now. Right now, I'm just more focused on giving my knowledge and my insight to girls and all the teams that I coach and help out with. That's my biggest focus right now, is how can I be a pathway to how can I give them a pathway to kind of like what you guys talked about last week, is making futsal big, and how can I give my part to that? And one of the things obviously right now starting off is just coaching. And I think Midwest has, again, a great program and great coaches. So I just want to be able to give my part back to the youth right now. It'd be cool. Don't get me wrong, it'd be awesome, but I have bigger priorities right now, and that's just getting the youth to where they have to be right now.
That's really cool. I think that's a very, I think that's a very service-oriented approach to what you can give, and I think that is definitely what the league needs. We need more and more people that are like that. Which before you say that, just a question to kind of go off of that. A question from the chat that I'm inspiring a question from. Yeah. So thank you, Jake, for this inspiration of the question. If you had to send a message or say something to youth players, like youth futsal players or players that you coach, to spur them along in some fashion, what would your message to them be?
It's gonna sound a little weird, but it's definitely make mistakes. It's make those mistakes, but the biggest thing is learn from them. It's how you get back up that really defines you as a player. Not only just because it doesn't just go in soccer and futsal, it translates to life a lot. Is be able to make those mistakes. But how are you getting up? How are you responding to either you not scoring a goal, to you not playing well? There's a lot of things that some of my younger players, they look at it and they feel like they're playing bad just because, one, they didn't score, two, they missed a pass. Like, no, absolutely not. There's a lot of ways you can contribute to the game. Is, how are you responding to your negative moments? I think that's the biggest thing I can, tell my younger players is don't be afraid to make mistakes. I'm here to help you learn from them. I'm here to then coach you and point out, okay, what's going on, what's not working, what is working. And then going back again is be creative. I want you to feel free to be able to go out and play how you want to play and showcase your skills with what you've learned, with what you've been shown to do. and then just go out there and put a show for fans, for parents, for scouts, for whoever it is, and just throw a little bit of your personality into, because there's only one you, and don't replicate someone. Don't aspire to be another model or a copier or anything. Just do you. Be your own person. Be your own players. The biggest thing.
Well, so all night you keep talking about coaching, you talk about the young players and doing your part with futsal. What's your perspective on FCS futures and how does that play into that?
It's awesome. I definitely think it's awesome. I'm excited to see what that's gonna look like. I think it's another stepping stone just for futsal in America. We talked about last week getting futsal regulated course to be a part of the youth thing. I think that's something that's awesome, and I definitely agree with. I'm excited to see what that looks like. I think every player should be playing futsal. It provides so much development for them. It really puts them in uncomfortable situations where you might not be in a lot of those situations outdoor wise. And it just teaches you how critical thinking, how to get out of situations. It makes you think fast and make the game go fast. So it really brings out the best in a player, in my opinion. So I think every player should be playing futsal, and it's a fantastic thing to see that we're now introducing that at younger ages. And it's trending forward for futsal in America. Sure.
We have goalkeeper Jose Vicario of Midwest United here with us. If you got any questions for him, make sure you put them in the chat, and we'll see if we can get to those a little bit later. We're going to have Giuliani Compos of Ginga FS joining us, and then after that we'll be recapping the games from this past weekend. But Jose Vicario is still here. Jose, you mentioned one of the pieces of advice that you would give to younger players is make mistakes. Do you have any moments or a moment that comes to mind of a time where you made a mistake and how that, in some way shaped the player that you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we're focusing on this season, I've made a few mistakes myself. One of the biggest ones, I think, was our first game. And I should have known, but it's one of those moments where everything's just going things. So I lost my composure for a second, but it was like a kick in, and I knew if the goal would have gone in, it wouldn't have counted. But I tried to stop it, went in, and that was my mistake. I think that was a turning point in the game for sure. But thankfully, I had the teammates to kind of get me back up and boost me up. And again, I could have taken it one or two ways. I could have been bummed about it the entire game, and now my team's gonna have a bad game, or I could have, got it together, fix my mistake, and understand I gotta do this for my team. It says a lot about you as a player, how you respond. And every time I step on that court, I'm gonna do whatever I can for my teammates, because I'll step on that court and I'll die for them. I'll get in front of the shots I have to for them, just because I have that team that coach has been able to put together for us, and we have that environment that we're gonna step onto that court and we're gonna do everything that we have to do for each other.
Wow. Got any questions?
I mean, one of the things. So we got Tizzy Glizzy in the chat. What team is your most creative team? The one that learns from their mistakes and truly shows your policies.
I think all of them. All of my teams are like that. They're all fantastic players. I don't have a team that I'm over here preferring over any other team. No, I love all my teams, and that's one of the best things again about Midwest is just the quality of the players. That they make it easy for me. They really do, because we have just such great quality players in our academy teams. And it's so fun working with all of them, just because I'm coaching different genders, I'm coaching different ages. So I can't have one style with all of them, because what works for one team might not work for the other team. But when it comes to them just being great athletes, and not just athletes, but they listen, they want to get better, they understand the game, they ask questions, what's going well, what am I doing wrong, how can I get better? And it's shocking sometimes, because at such a young age, they want to know what they're doing wrong. And I think it's it's great that they're asking these questions, because then we can dive into these, one-on-ones. Okay, let's sit down, let's focus on what's working, what's not. And they're just so smart. They're all so smart, and they make our job easy sometimes just because of how committed they are to this sport.
That's really cool. Well, we got maybe like 5 or 10 more minutes with you here. I'd like to talk a little bit, kind of lead us a little bit further into where you guys are at right now. You're setting up to get the second seed in the playoffs.
Yeah.
You get to host, your first playoff game. You're hosting Ginga. Tell me about your thoughts and your perspective coming into that game. What are you expecting? And I know you guys are. You already said it. You're trying to win and get to the final and win the final. But what do you expect from this one, and how you guys coming into it?
I think one of the most exciting things right now for the team is, again, being in this situation where we're playing a playoff game, and more importantly, I think it's that we're playing it with teammates who've been playing with each other for such a long time. This is a team where, whether that was playing last year together or the year before that with Migos, who, again, everybody at some point played with Migos, and it's kind of been leading up ever since that, really. And now we're in a position where we're in the situation where we're playing a semifinal or a playoff game, going into a final game, is being with the team that we have and really going out there and just trying our best right now. We're definitely excited, and I'm super thrilled that I'm able to do it with the friends I have and the teammates I have who I've been growing up playing with, and they just makes that much sweeter that we're in this position together, and we've been growing up playing since we were kids, younger teens, and now we're in this high stake game. So I think we're playing with everything we have because, like I mentioned, we want to win. And it makes it a little bit more emotional because we're doing it with our brothers who, we've been playing together for such a long time. So we're coming at it with everything we have. We're not really here to play games. We're not here to just go out and compete and just play. We're here to try and dominate and try to really put Midwest, on the map here with the futsal program, I should say. Yeah.
There's a question that I don't know if this gets weird if I ask this question, but I feel like it might be a reality for you guys. Particularly how the season went this year.
Yeah.
The other team in Grand Rapids, right? Grand Rapids Ole. I know there's been some like the red Grand Rapids team and the blue Grand Rapids team, right? And how they haven't lost a game this year. You guys tied them their first game. That second game obviously didn't go you guys' way. Does it feel like for a Grand Rapids team, guys are sort of like playing in their shadow, not in like a weird way, but like you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like the result. So like, tell me about that dynamic. Like another team in Grand Rapids, and a lot of people know each other across.
Right.
What's that been like?
I never looked at it like that. I think a lot of players on the team never looked at it like that as well. One of the things that a lot of us feel strongly about is we're not Ole. We don't want to be like Ole. We are our own identity. Midwest is arguably one of the best in the state, if not the best in the state, and especially best in the West. We're our own identity. We don't aspire to be like them. All credits to them. They're a fantastic team, absolutely. But so are we. We are not just a Grand Rapids team. I think, in my opinion, we're the Grand Rapids team in terms of futsal, outdoor, whatever it is. So, yeah, I never looked at it that way. Again, going back to it, just credits to them, but we're our own team. I never care to be like them, or we never care to, follow in their footsteps. We're making our own journey, our own steps, and we're putting our own name on the map. We play Midwest futsal here. That's what we do.
You guys, if you guys win this game against Ginga, the other side, it's Ole versus Imperial. How likely do you think you guys, if you beat Ginga, you'd face the other Grand Rapids team in the final?
It's possible. Absolutely. I think that's what's the prediction right now. Obviously, first, we just want to get through our first game. We want to get through Ginga first. I think that's where our heads are right now before we start looking at anything else. That's our mindset. That's where our preparation is right now. Play, win on the 22nd, and then we start to go back to the drawing board and then transition into that final game, whether that's Ole or Imperial, I'd be excited to play either or. We play Ole, now we have a Grand Rapids match. If we play Imperial, now we have a rematch from last year. So I'm excited to see which team we play. I'm excited to play whichever. So we're going to do our job first before we get into any of that other stuff.
Well, speaking of doing your job first, one of the things that's interesting is looking at Ginga. So you all played them in Cincinnati and lost, played at home and won, and the games couldn't be more different.
Oh, yeah.
What is it about the games that was different, and why were you all able to be successful at home but not on the road?
Yeah, I think, again, one, it just goes back to looking back at what went wrong that first game. Two, obviously, it was a home game. We didn't have to travel 6 hours. And then three is we had our full roster. Again, mentioning, I think we're one of the few teams that, 50% of our roster is active academy players. So to be able to travel with, 5, 6, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds and play in this men's level, it speaks volume about, our academy players. One, we trust them. But absolutely, I think having the vets back out at home and having the more experienced players be able to help those players that traveled with us on that first game, it was a boost for them. It was a boost for the team. And I think that's really what kind of set those two games apart, is having a full roster.
Well, if you let me go, I'll ask another one. Because you mentioned something earlier about composure, and one of the things that's interesting is Midwest has the most yellow cards in the league, right? What is it that, and a lot of those,
most yellow cards?
Yeah, most yellow cards in the league. And a lot of them came earlier in the season, right? What is it about composure that has, how have you all grown as a team?
Yeah, I think it's looking at those yellow cards is you have to be professional enough and, like I mentioned, have that composure to understand, okay, now I'm on a yellow card. I think, again, it goes back to having the players that we do. Gio selected this team because he believes that we're all professional and we know our job. We know how to play. We know when we're on a yellow card. To really understand that anything I do afterwards can put my team in jeopardy. Not only myself, I'm out for the next game, but a red card changes the game so fast in futsal for any team. So we have the players who understand that and know, okay, there's a little banter here, there's a little pushback, it's a little passionate, it can get feisty, but now they know not to go beyond that limit, because at the end of the day, yes, show that you're passionate. Sometimes showing too much passion gets you those yellow cards. That's the way I see it. We're just a passionate team, who loves to put on the show, especially at home for our fans, especially when they start getting involved in the game with us and everything. It just makes it so much easier. So I just look at it as just we're just a passionate team, but we understand not to push it beyond that, for sure.
We've got a couple more minutes with goalkeeper Jose Vicario of Midwest United. So if you got any questions, this is your last opportunity to put them in the chat. And then, of course, later on, we're going to be talking with Giuliani Compos of Ginga. That'll be just in about 10 minutes or so. One of the things that we noticed, particularly, I think it was a few games into the season, you guys brought in another goalkeeper, Miguel Cervantes.
Yeah.
What's it been like splitting time with him coming in? Obviously he's kind of a veteran in the futsal goalkeeping world. What's that experience been like for you?
It's definitely nice. Again, going back to how I answered earlier, is it pushes me it brings out the best version of me that I possibly, unfortunately I can't do that without having another quality keeper. But again, it goes back to me mentioning that we have Andre, we have Marcos, who do the exact same thing. They push me. And it really creates such a competitive environment for the goalkeepers where we know that we don't have a spot guaranteed. The only way that we're starting and we're playing all game long is we're putting that work in at practice. That's one of the things I love about what Gio is doing with this team is he doesn't give out handouts. You're not playing because, you've been playing with Midwest for such a long time or because he knows you personally off the court. Is he awards player with their effort, with their performance, with how dedicated they are to the team. And the goalkeepers that we have just allowed me to really go at it at practice and go all out and do the best that I possibly can, and not sit here and say, okay, I'm guaranteed this spot because I'm the only keeper or because the backup keeper is not great. So it's great that we have these 3 quality keepers on the side as well, who at any point realistically can also take my spot. This isn't guaranteed for me. Andre has the quality to, he showed it against Midwest, kept a clean sheet, had a phenomenal game. And that just shows you the depth of our goalkeepers too, is that even if you're 3rd or 4th string, you can put up starting level stats. And it's just all credit to them. They're fantastic. And I thank them for me having the season that I'm having, is because without their push and without them being there, I don't have that grit, I should say, or that determination to really be better every single practice, every single game. So all credits to those goalkeepers for sure.
Another comment that we have from the chat has to do with the length of time that you and your teammates have been playing together. I know you mentioned that you guys have known each other for a long time. If you had to try to put a number on maybe the average amount of time that most of the guys have been playing together, what would that number be?
Oh, it's too long. It really is. And it goes in gaps too, because funny enough, I actually coached Anthony in high school. Anthony Garcia, one of the, in my opinion, one of the best in the league. Yeah. Anthony Garcia, or Leon, sorry, not Garcia. And then I've obviously played with Heda Montañez, who's also one of the best in the league, in my opinion. And then Raul. We're looking at players like Fee as well. He's a phenomenal player. He's so comfortable on the ball, and we love giving him. I love giving him the ball. I throw the ball up to him like he's gonna do his job. But no, it's too long, realistically. Whether if it was me with a player or other 2 teammates on the team, the history goes way back, and I mean way back. We're talking like 10 years, 11 years.
Wow.
And then
that's a long
time. It really is. And then again, some of these other players grew up playing together, and Migos was a huge part of that. A lot of these players on Midwest right now, maybe 70-80% of them, they played with Migos growing up through the futsal program when they were like 14, 15 years old. Like 16 years old. And now going into the men's league, 5-6 years later, still playing together. So the depth and years of friendship and being teammates, it just goes so far back for sure.
That's really cool.
He really wants to do it. So build us your team. 5 players.
5 players.
Who's your squad?
This is Gerard's question of the week for the last 3 weeks.
Now we're talking like just with my Midwest team.
No, league, FCS league.
FCS league.
He wants to put the really spicy stuff under your seat. That's what he wants.
So if I'm going my top 5, me at keeper, Daniel De Leon, Anthony Leon, I'm going Fee up top, and obviously Heda Montañez. That's my starting 5.
Starting 5.
That's my 5.
So if you could pick anyone in the league, you're picking those 5.
Those are my 5.
Those
are my 5. Yep. The best of the best. Those are my 5.
All right. There you go.
Love it.
There it is. We got time for a couple more questions. I had a good one, and I just lost it. Do you have any? I have a good.
Well, I mean, I have more follow up. Yeah, tell us why. Give us more details.
Because
why?
That's my team. I look at the way of how we play together, how comfortable I am with them, how much trust is there, and then just the quality of those players. I think again, those are the best of the best in my opinion. People are gonna think differently, and that's totally okay. Everybody has their own opinion, but that's mine. Those are the 5 that I'm gonna go put on a starting 5 and know that we're going to come out with the result. So that's my answer right there. I see those guys as the best players. They are putting up amazing numbers for us, and not just for us, but for the league as well. If you don't know them too well, go back and check. They're high numbers as well, and they're there for a reason. So those are the players I'm trusting to get the job done at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised by any of those names at all. One you did leave off, Isaiah Meyer, another really solid player.
Yeah, he's so good. He's so good.
He's in the chat right now asking why. No. He's like, oh my goodness, what the?
No, it's hard to leave any player out realistically. But it's just one. I think it goes back to me just knowing those guys and the friendship that we have, and then again just the quality of those players. It was tough to leave anybody else out on the Midwest team for sure.
We did have some conversation about how to say the last name. Montañez?
Montañez.
Yeah. Why haven't we seen him in more games this year? Because it seems like
one of the things is coaching, and that's one of the things that we focus on here is if we have our youth teams, they are a priority. Yeah. They are our number one priority. We are going to prioritize their development and their game before ours. So all credits to him to be able to step up and own that and be professional and give his knowledge and his experience back to his teams.
Yeah.
Who, his teams are also very, very fortunate to have a coach like him with his knowledge and everything. So, that's one of the reasons that you haven't seen him as much is because he's, doing his part of the futsal community.
Yeah, so we were talking about this. I went back and was rewatching a lot of the games, and he was somebody that stood out to me so much. Not like just every aspect.
Yeah.
So well-rounded in his ability to score, defensively really sound, his ability to create for others. So yeah, he's a fun player to watch.
Yeah, he's awesome. I mean, alongside too with George Saldanas, who's a rock for us. He's our captain. So big shout out to him over there too. He's doing a great stuff for the men's team and his youth teams as well. He's so passionate. He's a very passionate guy. So we love having him as a captain. We love the leadership that he provides us as well, and he does so much on the back end of futsal as well, not just logistically as well. So a big shout out to him if he's listening out there.
Well, last two questions. The first one is, what do you hope to see in the FCS next year or in Midwest United next year? Like looking to next year, I know, obviously we're skipping over the last couple of weeks here, which is, we've talked about their importance. But if you had to look ahead and say, this is what I want to see in the coming year or even years, like 5 years from now, what do you see?
For Midwest especially, I am excited and would love to see more of our older academy players start to join the men's roster. There's a lot of quality, very, very good quality players on our 18, 19-year-old teams, high school boys and all that, who can play on a men's team, and I'm super excited to see what that might look like for them in the future. I'd love to see them play in this league. I think they are players that, again, the league can fall in love with, who are just phenomenal players. I've gotten the chance to watch a couple of them, and they are quality players who can play on this team. As far as FCS, you guys have been doing it already, but I'm loving the expansion that you guys are doing, bringing on more teams, giving us more games, and being able to, play a longer schedule, and players playing futsal, they love this sport. And they want to play it as long as they can. A lot of players, if they can play it year-round, they will, myself included. And to be able to bring more teams on is such a huge thing for current teams, but then also for oncoming teams as well. Because it's such a great league. It's a great league. It's fun. It's professional. And just adding more teams is just going to increase the value of this league in the future. So I'm excited to see what that's going to look like for the FCS league in the future.
That's really cool. Yeah, we're really excited for that, and the announcements that have been coming out in the FCS about the expansions and everything this week. Really excited to see that continue. And here's the last question. If you had to look potential fans in the eyes that are going to maybe come, either come to watch or watch your game, semifinal game, or watch you guys in the postseason, and they're like, hey, why should I watch you? Why should I watch your team? What do you say?
For why they should watch Midwest?
Yeah.
I think it's just the passion that we bring again. I think these are some fiery guys, and you've seen it throughout the entire season. Is you look at a player and they're all so creative. There's been a couple of games that I've rewatched, and I've heard some comments about how, Anthony's dribbling out of these situations, or how, Vicario is scoring goals up top. We're not a boring team. We're not a team that's just playing basic futsal or anything like that. They're all super creative, and you're gonna go out and you're gonna see something and you're just gonna be like, holy crap, like what did I just watch? Because we have the quality of players like that on this team, and they're gonna go out there and they're gonna put a show on for you guys. And if you want to really have a fun, energetic, exciting night that's fast paced, and it has the drama, it has the chippiness, it has the quality of the goals and the play, Midwest United Futsal is a game to catch for sure.
That's amazing. Well, I really appreciate your
Absolutely.
your take on that, and just like your own personal passion in that coming through there. You got a lot of fans in the chat. A lot of people saying you're the truth. I don't know if that's
I'm
like
the
an
truth.
inside joke or it's just like a hey, he's the man. And also your captain Jorge Saldanis said it's the best interview so far. So there you go. Which I talked with. By the way, I talked with Coach Gio.
Yeah.
He said we could say Jorge or George. Is that
Either or.
Either
Jorge or
okay.
George.
I got confused once because there's also another Jorge on a different team, and so I was like, if they don't want me to say George, I want to make sure I'm saying it the right way. So I just was like, I'm always going to say Jorge no matter what.
I say George too.
You say
Again,
George
it
too,
goes
all
back
right.
to the conversation we had earlier.
Yeah.
It's just everything. Just my name's Jose, but I introduce
Yeah.
myself as Jose. It sounds weird sometimes to me too, still, but it's just the way it is.
Yeah. Well, we really appreciate you coming on to the show, coming into Lansing. No, it's not too far of a drive, but it is a trip. So thanks so much for coming
Absolutely.
in. And I hope you guys enjoyed our interview with Jose Vicario. We're going to go to a quick break and switch gears. And when we come back, we're going to be bringing on Julianie Campos of Ginga FS. So don't go anywhere.
Committing a crime so you can try to escape from prison. Bad idea. Go into the pod escape room to play an escape game with your friends. Great idea. Test your skill as an astronaut in outer space. Find Santa in Save Christmas. Or take a vacation to an abandoned island. Just don't get stuck there. The Pod Escape Room. Learn more at thepodlansing.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Third Half podcast by the FCS Live team, brought to you by the Pod Escape Room and Ally Marketing. I'm Jared Kleppel, Gerard Ascani here by my side, your host tonight. We just had an awesome interview with Jose Vicario, goalkeeper of Midwest United. If you missed it, make sure you go back to the beginning of this show and check that out. It was great to have him be able to come here to our studio in Lansing and chat about the Midwest journey, all the way back, starting with last year when they lost the finals, all the way to now where they're at, just about to square off with Ginga FS in the semis. And that is where we pick up right now. We welcome a special guest remotely from Ohio. It's going to be Giuliani Compos of Ginga FS. Giuliani, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight.
Thank you guys first and foremost so much for having me. As I mentioned yesterday, Jared, it's been a pleasure this whole year, even in the postseason. You guys setting everything up for us. It's been wonderful. The live streams, all the behind the scene works that you guys have been doing. Shout out to Jen as well, all her efforts as well. You guys have been doing a fantastic job getting the light on this league, and it's been a pleasure. So on behalf of Ginga, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me. And I'm excited. I'm excited to talk futsal with you guys.
Great. Well, we're pumped to have you on the show, Giuliani. Gerard, I think I'm going to do what I did last time. First question.
Well, look, I prepped you a little bit for it, so let's talk about it. Ginga is a completely different team on the road compared to at home. Give us some insight into why that is.
Because Ginga is based out of Cincinnati, Ohio, the commute to most of the away games, and whether it be Grand Rapids, Michigan, or even Detroit, it's a little bit tougher for the commitment of our guys to make it every single away game. It's a 3 to 6 hour commute for most, especially those on Ginga who have kids and families to attend to and jobs that require attention 24/7. It makes things a little bit difficult. It makes our team
/see us. Give me something in the chat to let me know that we're in there, because we're trying to make sure that we're on, and I can't quite tell if we're on. So okay. Can
it looks like we're good. Yeah, we're back.
Okay, we're back.
We're back.
Giuliani, can you say something real quick? I don't know if I could hear you or not. Now I can't hear. No, we can't hear Giuliani.
No.
Okay. We don't worry. We didn't really miss much because we also lost our connection with him. We thought it was a problem there, but it was our problem. So you didn't really miss anything. Don't worry. Right now we just can't hear Giuliani for some reason, so we're going to get that straightened out.
They can hear me, so we could do it again. It was just a monologue.
It was just a monologue.
And I was praising the bios because Giuliani had mentioned some of the work that Jen had done. It's Jennifer in the chat. So we got a lot of player bios in the league, and if you haven't had a chance yet to check them out, navigate to your favorite team, navigate to your favorite player. I can't guarantee that there's a bio for every player in there if they're your favorite, but I know there's a lot. And so it's a fun adventure to go and navigate and find ones and find funny facts. We're still trying to figure out. Well, actually, I found out, but I don't think I ever shared with anybody what Roger Straz's favorite candy was. I was going to talk about it on the games this last week. It just never came up.
Do you know what Roger Straz's favorite candy is?
Oh, I still can't hear him. Oh, Giuliani, sorry, we can't hear you still.
Let's see. Let me refresh this.
Oh, you're refreshing it.
Yeah, I just got to refresh a couple things. And you were talking about the stats. Did we ever get the stats?
The link, I sent it to you. We never put it. Yeah, we never put it in the chat. Yeah, we also took a moment. It was a pretty long monologue.
He was going for like the whole time that we were down. Gerard was going because we thought we had to reestablish this connection, but nothing was going from us to there. So why would I not be able to hear him? I don't know.
We can't hear him at all.
No, but he can hear us. Yeah, he can hear us, but for some reason,
is he muted?
No, he's
Any
not.
chance?
No, because everyone in the chat can hear Giuliani. So we just have no idea what
Wait,
we can
the
ask
chat
them
can hear
questions.
them. Oh, the chat should just ask the
Actually-
questions, and then we.
Actually, I think the chat can't because I'm not seeing any levels on here.
Oh.
All right, so here's what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take a quick, maybe like 5-minute break or so off air to see if we can sort this out. And then we're going to restart our Giuliani Compos interview. So, hey, don't go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we are back live. I believe. So I'm Jared Kleppel along with Gerard Ascana. We have Giuliani Compos here with us. Giuliani can hear us, and we can hear you.
Yes, correct.
Yes, amazing.
Oh, yeah.
If you can hear everybody in the chat, put something in there that lets us know because we are going to do this interview because this is amazing. In case you didn't know, here's my Ethernet cord that's now useless, right? This is how we usually do stuff. And now we have to use the Wi-Fi of the people behind this. So
This,
don't tell them.
no
But they
strings
actually-
attached.
They still know because
They still-
I have a good relationship with them. But anyways, they have amazing food. Smoking Pig Barbecue, shout out. If you're ever in Lansing, get them. But Giuliani Campos, you're now with us. I think we were still on question number 1.
Question number 1, we were talking about Ginga and how you all show up on the road compared to
Yes.
how you show up at home.
So
Right,
let's do
so-
that question again.
Perfect. So what I was saying was that obviously our squad has been thin on the road for the commute to the games in Michigan, whether it's 3 or 6 hours, because of the commitment that some of our players have as fathers, as brothers, or even as employees or business owners. It makes it a little bit difficult when we are making that commute to Michigan. But I said that it was more of a chip on our shoulder and a little bit more motivation. And also the way we look at it is having a little bit more trust in ourselves. Those players who are committing, who are making every training, every away game, it kind of gives us that responsibility that we have to step up to. So one can look at it as a disadvantage, but we certainly at Ginga look at it as a challenge that we're willing to step up to. So.
Well, to tie it all in, because I know Jake is really concerned and he wants to stop this conspiracy. So for all those that are still here, Giuliani just shared a little tidbit. Thins, that's the favorite candy of Roger Straz is Reese's Thins.
Reese's
Specifically,
Thins.
the Thins.
Okay.
Specifically, yeah.
Giuliani,
yeah.
what is your favorite candy?
I don't do candy. I haven't done candy in many years. I'll do maybe a fruit. Roger could tell you. Satudo brings rice cakes that his wife makes. Shout out to Satudo's wife. She makes these lovely rice cakes for us, and he usually brings a pack of bananas. So that would be
nice.
my candy. Not shaming anyone who eats candy. Go for it. Be great, But I kind of lean towards more of the fruit that Satudo brings. Usually he brings a pack of bananas or something like that.
That's awesome. That's so cool. So let's jump into, where, kind of going back to the beginning for you guys. You guys weren't a part of the FCS last year. In fact, how long have you been playing for G?
Funny enough, there's always a story behind things. I met Coach Satudo at a Sunday league game just by coincidence. A fellow coworker of mine in a restaurant in Cincinnati, a good friend of mine, Juan Alt, shout out to Juan if he's hearing this. He invited me to go to a pickup game on a Sunday league. I randomly showed up. Usually, my Sunday is my rest day. I go to church, I kind of journal, I kind of do things for myself. I showed up to the game, and Coach Satudo was there. We chat maybe for about 10, 15 minutes. And then after that, maybe a week later, he got my information from Juan, reached out to me and said, "Hey, I have a futsal team. I would love for you to come to a practice." The rest was history. I just started playing futsal this year. Growing up, I would play street soccer, maybe 3v3, 4v4, 5v5 outdoor, but not certainly to the extent of futsal within the rules of the game, the positioning, the knowledge, the movement. This is all brand new to me, and I will say it's really brand new to a lot of the Ginga players as well. So that's something that I did want to uncover sooner or later down the interview or the podcast, that a lot of us on Jenga are new to futsal, and for it being our first year together, it's really brilliant to see how we've been gelling together. We've been immersing ourselves into the futsal culture.
Well, yeah, tell us a little bit more about that. I mean, you guys, you like you just said, a lot of players have little futsal experience and have experience in other places. What's that been like for you guys, and how's that affected your futsal journey this year?
I feel like it's been a blessing. I feel like it's been a blessing because we are approaching futsal the way we view it, especially the Japanese side of futsal, right? Satoru being from Japan. In Japan, they do futsal a little bit differently. There's a little bit of a different perspective on futsal as a whole. And so we've approached it with the enthusiasm of a child, right? Having a childlike enthusiasm with anything you do is really the way to tackle a new challenge. And I feel like the shortcomings that we've come across, maybe the games that we haven't won, or the upsets that we've had along the journey this season, I think it all goes back to us learning a new world, learning something that's foreign to a lot of us. But as I said, it's more of a blessing than anything else because we're learning something new and we're learning together. And I think that's really special. I think that's what makes Jenga so special, is that a lot of the players on the team, I would say more than 50% of the players are playing futsal for the first time this year, especially together as a team.
Wow.
So thinking about so many people new to futsal, you all learning together, what are some of the key things that you and the team have learned over the course of the season?
Futsal being differently from outdoor soccer, a lot of the things that stuck with us the most was the positioning, the body movements more than anything, because we can all play soccer. I feel like that's safe to say. A lot of the teams across the league are excellent soccer players, but when it comes to futsal, I think it was the paradigm shift in mentality. It was the positionings, it was the movements, like I said, on and off the ball, the different way you have to pressure and defend. I think more than anything, it was the mindset switch that we had to overcome. But we did it as a group, and that unison in itself has propelled us into the playoffs. Things like that. I think it's very beautiful. Obviously, we're very competitive amongst each other. We're very competitive in the league. So a lot of those games, we wish we could have done things differently. But credit to Satoru. Satoru is a fantastic futsal mind, if not the best in the league, in my opinion. Just because of how he eats, sleeps, and breathes futsal, right? He brings that culture that they have in Japan for futsal into Cincinnati, and it radiates in the training. It radiates among the team. He's always sending us links to videos, whether it's Barcelona's futsal team or Japan's futsal team, Brazil's futsal team. And so he kind of fathered us into the season as we kept growing, and each game and each training session. Without his help, I think I don't know where it would be, honestly. But it's a lovely experience just to have someone, a leader like Satoru. Yeah.
Yeah. So, if we go back to the beginning of the season, Ginga being newcomers in the FCS, I believe Ginga as a club has history playing futsal. I think they were in the NFPL for a while. I don't know exactly how recent they were in that league, but for the FCS specifically, you guys were kind of like the newcomers this year. Everyone else had either been a part of the league or Ole, who is just very, very well known in this area in Michigan. So what was it like what were the expectations like for you guys, right? Go back to, your first practices or gearing up for your first game, knowing that you have this, lack of futsal experience, but experience in other areas. What was that like for you guys? What kind of expectations were there for your season and your team?
I think going back to what I was mentioning about Satoru, I feel like he made it very, very easy of a transition. So the expectations at the beginning of the season were, let's just take the next step in front of us. Let's just take it step by step. Let's learn the touches, the body movements. Let's learn the positioning. Obviously, him having so much wisdom and experience with the futsal, everything else came naturally, right? We just listened to his command and we just followed each other's lead by going through the motions and going through the movements. Every single game, Satoru expressed, it doesn't matter if we win, if we lose, it's about us growing as a team, right? And it's about us growing into those roles, of futsal players. Obviously, him knowing that a lot of us aren't futsal players, have no experience. So I think that was the biggest motivating factor of our season and how we were able to develop so quickly was the fact that there was really no pressure. There was really no expectations. Again, Satoru just teaching us and breathing the futsal into the facility, into the team, into the players, whether we are training or aren't training. He's always talking futsal to us. So I feel like that was the most interesting and it was the most unique thing was that we really didn't have pressure, right? We're the newcomers in the league. There's teams like Ole, Detroit Imperial that are very well established, Midwest. But for us, Satoru was just saying, hey, let's learn this game. Let's learn this lifestyle. Let's learn each other's games. And we will gel together. Things will come. The games will come. The goals will come. The format and the unison of the team will come.
Speaking of how the team got to gel, one of the comments in the chat was after the opening loss to Imperial, we got a chance to speak with Coach Satoru, and he said that you guys all stuck around to discuss the game in the locker room for, I think it was like at least an hour or something like that. Can you give us a little peek at what that was like? Starting off the year, go to the defending FCS champs, you play them, you're playing on a very small court, and then you guys stick around for a while and you're talking about the game. What was that experience like, and what did that do for your team, and how did that set the tone for the rest of the year?
Yeah, absolutely. So that first game against Detroit, we all remember it vividly. We're all competitors at the end of the day, but that loss really woke us up in the sense that we said, hey, we came to Detroit. We were able to give them a fight, to show some teeth. And we were proud of ourselves. We said, hey, once we figure this thing out, we're gonna be the talk of the town. And it's actually funny because I mentioned that quite a few times this season. Shout out to Davide at Detroit. He's a really good friend of mine. We speak often. But having players like that on the opposing team just motivates us as well, right? We're the newcomers coming to Detroit, playing a team of that caliber. We took it for a learning experience, right? We think that there's no losses in life. You either win or you learn, right? And so we were learning, and we just really inhaled that loss more than anything, that hour that we were in the dressing room. And we also just mingled with Detroit Imperial as well. They're very welcoming. They're very friendly, despite what happens on the court. Sometimes they're a little bit high voltage or spicy sometimes on the court. But that's just the nature of that caliber of team. They have so much talent. Michigan as a whole has so much talent on the futsal level that, again, we were able to receive that for what that looked like that day. Just being able to take the positives with the negatives that game in particular when we did lose. But we were able to hang out, talk amongst each other, gather ourselves, and just really pick ourselves up and say, hey, we might have taken the loss, but we have shown something, especially for a team that's just now introduced into this league. We're learning how to gel with each other. We're learning futsal as a whole. But yeah, shout out to Detroit Imperial. Shout out to Davide. Wonderful team, wonderful player that is. And just a learning experience, but we took it for that.
So, you mentioned the spiciness, right? And one of the things I think about watching you as a player, you always play with passion. What's the spiciest moment for you this season?
This season, I would say perhaps maybe when Ole visited us. I took the ball from our half of the field, and I took maybe 2-3 touches, and I just let one rip. I actually got fouled right after by Sammy. Shout out to Sammy on Ole. we lost that game, but again, that just is a testament to who we are. Win or lose, we're going to show that we belong. And I feel like that was a moment in particular in the season personally for me where I felt like I had to show, yeah, we may not be on that level of Ole or Detroit as far as winning these leagues and being in this kind of competitive environment, but we certainly will get there. And I just feel like that was a moment in particular. But I think that just speaks for Ginga as a whole. You know, we won't lay down. We'll get this thing right sooner or later. But there's a lot of talent within that club, and it's just it's a blessing to be a part of.
I mean, you know, it's so interesting to hear you talk about the background of so many of the players on the team, because arguably Grand Rapids Ole is the best team in the country. Like they had won a tournament recently. They won the NFPL last year. They were undefeated this season in FCS. So, you know, you can make an argument best team in the country. And then you have so many players on Ginga that this was their first season, and you all played them so tight in that game. There, like that was a battle. What would you say it is that, like, when we look at some of the other teams in the league, right? If we compare to a team like Midwest, who has some newer players as well, they're not able to compete. What's the difference for Ginga that with so many players new to futsal, that you all are competing with these amazing teams?
Yeah, I think the mindset behind the attitude of the team and that fighting spirit. Again, I'm just going to keep going back to our leader Satoru. I think it's a Japanese spirit. It's hovering over us as a team. You know, he's really passionate. He's a small guy. He's a little bit quiet, but by any means is he, you know, moderate. He's very strong. He's very big charactered, and I think that just rubs on us, and that it's just an infectious behavior that we have. We're going to go toe to toe with anyone. But really, more than that, I would say is just him breathing belief into us. He breathes the belief into us that we can compete. It doesn't matter what the score is. And I think that's very important, not only for Ginga's men team, but it's an example that we're setting for the youth teams as well. Ginga is very well known for their youth level teams, whether it be boys or girls. They're fantastic. All of the teams, all age groups. And I feel like that's one thing that he laid upon us was that we have to show that character and that strength, not only for ourselves against the rest of the teams in the league, but also for those who are watching back at home, the kids who are showing up to the games, the parents who are showing up to the games, the fans that come out to see us, you know, taking time out of their evenings to come and watch us play. I think that more than anything is the reason why we do have to show up and kind of stick our chests out, right? As the newcomers of the league, we have to show that grit. But it all comes from the commander. It all comes from Satoru, who has that strong character, has that strong personality. I think it's a Japanese thing, and we're not complaining about it.
So I think you talked a little bit about this earlier, but what is your history in sports, like playing soccer, you know, leading up to this? I mean, we're talking about how you haven't played futsal except for this year. What's your history in sports?
Sure. So I grew up in the state of Delaware where I played really Sunday league teams with Hispanic leagues and you know divisions that weren't professional. I actually tried out for a club called Delaware Sangerbund in the state of Delaware. My dad's friend was the coach of the team. He was the assistant coach. I'm sorry. When I tried out for the team, I never played soccer. I started playing soccer when I was about maybe 10, 11 years old, which in my opinion is fairly late. Played basketball growing up. I didn't make this team when I tried out. A couple years goes by. That same coach, Coach Tom Janica, who I also mentioned in my player bio for Ginga, he sees me at a tournament with the Hispanic League, Sunday League teams, and recruits me again. Says, "Hey, man, I'm sorry it didn't work out when you were younger. Come on back." I ended up going back to that team. I made the team. We ended up winning maybe 4 or 5 state championships. We went to regionals over there in Delaware. And then after that, shortly after that, I played at the academy level for the Baltimore-based Chelsea Academy team for a year and a half, and then took a step away from soccer because of an injury. Came back maybe a year or two later and played for a USL 2 league team called Delaware Stars that is no longer around. But yeah, me being from Chile, my father's from Chile, I would play street soccer often. In Delaware, we also play street soccer often as well. On all levels, whether it's the kids or adults, everyone's having a street soccer game somewhere going on. So I do have experience in that, but futsal is a different animal, I would say. Just the rules, the positions is just a whole new world that we were able to get introduced to, and we're grateful for it. Really, all the players at Ginga, we're having a fantastic time doing this futsal thing. Whether we're doing it wrong or right, it's just a breath of fresh air for all of us. But yeah,
that's awesome. If you had to give a piece of advice to someone who is in your shoes, who has not played futsal, but they have, maybe they have that history in soccer and they're looking to transition, and you just recently made that transition in the FCS. I know you talked about the positioning a lot, but what piece of advice would you give to someone who's in that place?
I would say surround yourself with leaders who bleed it. Just like Satoru, being from Japan, playing in Japanese leagues, growing up, I would say just surround yourself with someone who knows futsal and it comes from that world, and just listen to the instructions. I feel like when you prepare adequately, there's no room for any doubt. And so even if you have or haven't played futsal before, if you just follow instructions, follow that lead, and just be coachable, always have an open mind. Like I mentioned earlier, a couple minutes ago, having that childlike enthusiasm when doing something new is always going to propel you on that right path, on the right track to achieving what it is that you want to achieve. So my advice to them would just be, have that childlike enthusiasm, and then surround yourself with someone who bleeds it. Futsal being from the futsal world.
Very cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, and when you say that, I think about one of the most recent comments in the chat. After the games, you can always see at home games for Ginga the interaction with the fans and with the kids. Can you talk about the importance of being that potential hero of a future futsal player?
Absolutely. I think it makes the world of a difference to those kids. And again, I think that reason itself, that the support that we get from the academy levels, it means the most. I think that's the biggest motivating factor, is that eyes are on us, right? We're the newcomers in this league. We're trying to represent this badge, this club, and we have to do it the right way. But we also have to make sure that we're setting the appropriate example for those kids. Again, I'm not going to go into detail, but we can get feisty just like Detroit or just like Midwest or Ole on the court. But after the court, whenever the game finishes, everything stays there. We try to conduct ourselves in a positive way, and just really be professional, but also set that tone and be that example for those kids, because it makes the world of a difference. Kids are the future. The younger generations are the future. And it's important that they know that. And it's important that they have a good role model to follow, right? It all starts at home, and it all starts at home with our club, or even in your own house, with your parents, the way you act, the way you speak, the way you talk to others, the way you treat others. And that's something that we pride ourselves on in Ginga, especially, again, going back to the commander-in-chief, Satoru. In every single locker room talk and every pregame talk, he's always talking about respect, right? Again, I think it's a Japanese thing, but respect is just universal. It's a universal language, right? Kindness is the key to every heart. And I feel like that is what we bring, is just respect for ourselves, but respect for others, respect for our club, other clubs, the other teams. We want to be professional, but also show that we're an example to follow to those younger academy players, which means the world to us. Satoru always says, hey guys, make sure after the game, you walk over, take pictures, talk to people, mingle yourself, immerse yourself in the crowd, because they are taking time out of their day to support you. And it really means the world of a difference. There's a couple of players. There's a goalkeeper for one of the academy teams for Ginga. His name is Levi, and he's come to almost every single one of my games. I've actually coached his sister in a tournament for Ginga, the girls team, one of the youth teams, and he was there, and we chat for a couple hours, and we just hung out the whole day. Maybe something for me will pass in my mind. It definitely won't. He's got a special place in my heart, but for them, it means the world, right? I think that memory will live on forever with Levi. I feel like, and not just himself, but other kids as well. When you pour into others, they'll pour back into you, and you just feel bigger. And I feel like that's the biggest thing at Ginga, is that, again, we're a big family, we're a big club, but it's important that we show integrity, if you will, and respect.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's so many different ways that we can go with this, because a few of the different things you mentioned lead us into a conversation about the FCS futures. But Jared just posted the link to the season stats in the chat, and there is a stat that I was really surprised about, and it speaks to the spiciness of Ginga. So, Giuliani, Are you surprised at all that Ginga was the league leader in fouls?
Not at all. I'll tell you this. I'm a mixed martial artist, and I think mixed martial arts teaches you discipline. It teaches you how to not engage. Again, all bringing this back to Japan. Shout out to Japan for the one time. But Satudo also being a judoka, they teach judo in schools in Japan. It's about that fighter spirit. Obviously, when we go out to the games, when we step on that court, we're not looking to injure or harm anyone by any means necessary, but again, we're going to show that teeth, and a lot of those fouls again comes from the lack of knowledge in futsal. A lot of those were offensive fouls. We'll talk about that another time, but
I was wondering about that. I was wondering. I was like, lack of futsal experience, most fouls. Maybe,
right? So a lot of that has to do with just our lack of experience and knowledge on when to foul, how to foul. But again, that fighter spirit all comes from Satoru. But even just Ginga as a whole and the youth levels as well, those kids really get after it, right? And they don't tend to harm anyone or look for those kind of confrontations or even have those malicious intents or intentions, if you will. But we certainly are going to put up a fight. I feel like the badge, it weighs heavy. And so you have to show out. You have to give it your all. Whether it's a tackle at the end of the match or at the beginning, you want to set the tone. So yeah, I'm not surprised by that at all. I think it has something to do with us not being world first in the futsal world.
So, I want to ask a two-part question, and it is, what was the highest moment of the year for you guys, and what's been the lowest moment of the year?
To be fair, I was going to say this earlier as well, but to be fair, the highest moment for us was almost getting those 3 points against Ole at home. We took that as a win, honestly, in the locker room, because we said to ourselves, hey, because we respect Ole, we respect Detroit, we respect Midwest, we respect all the teams in the conference, but especially those two teams at the top, Ole and Detroit. And we said, hey, if we can go toe-to-toe with Ole and almost take those 3 points, if it wasn't for a couple of mistakes that we made towards the end of the game, then we can really make it far in this thing. We can really make a name for ourselves. And so I feel like that, again, it all goes back to what I was saying earlier. It's you either win or you learn. You really don't lose. And so we took that loss, if you will, against Ole as our highest point of the season, because we then knew that when we click, we can go against anyone. We can take it to anyone. We just play our game. We focus on the instructions that we were given from Satoru, and we can make it happen. I would say that was the highlight of our season. That was one of the peaks. I feel like this season has been peaks and valleys. I would say the lowest point of our season maybe was the loss to Lansing. It being again, on the road, the game against Lansing on the road. I wasn't able to go there because I was a little bit injured and I had work to attend to. But I feel like that was the lowest point because at that point, it was already the second half of the season. Some of our players weren't showing to the away games. I feel like mentally that took a toll on us. Do we still have it? Are we still going to put it together for the end of the season? Can we rally up these players to finish out this season, to finish what we started? I think that was a mental block for a lot of us, myself included, to just know and just to have faith that we can finish out this season the way we want to, because we started so well at home with all the home games. So I would say that was the lowest point, just because it was a mental blunder, if you will. We were kind of in a tough spot mentally. And I feel bad because Satoru tries his best to rally everyone, to get things going the right way, to steer the ship. And sometimes things are just far beyond his control, and life kind of gets in the way and things like that. Again, a lot of the players on Ginga have families, have children, have things going on. So I would say that would be the lowest point of our season, was just that mental blow that we're losing consecutive games on the road. We don't have that same Ginga team that we had in the first couple of home games. So I think that kind of knocked us off our groove a little bit. And there were definitely some doubts in the air. There was definitely some despair in the air.
You talked about going toe-to-toe with Ole at home. That was you guys were playing on the small court, right? Because you have two, and the other one was booked, right? So you guys were on the small court for that one, right?
Right.
So what was it like going on the road to play them, and now you're on the big court? I mean, that game looked a lot different through my eyes. What was that like for you guys?
So that small court, we're used to practicing there. That's our practice court. Very different game than what we expected. It wasn't up until 45 minutes before kickoff that first game against Ole at home that we found out we were playing on that court. So it
Oh,
was
wow.
definitely, yeah, it was
Wow.
definitely just a spin at the end there, last minute for us. Again, no excuses for anything. Ole's a fantastic team. We played our game. We played the game that we were supposed to. We couldn't quite get those 3 points. But then that game against Ole at in Detroit, or excuse me, in Michigan, was just a little bit different. Again, I'm going to go back to our squad being thin. Ole does a fantastic job of being patient. And so I would say that second half, the first half, we kind of hung in there with them. It was a tied game, but then the second half, our lungs kind of gave up, our legs kind of gave up. And then Ole just did what Ole does, and they just took control of the game, and they just were able to play their futsal. But I would say that the biggest difference was us having our players for that first game in Cincinnati, even us being on a different court versus that away game, us not having those players, us being extremely thin. And after that first half, that second half of that Ole game in Michigan, we were a little bit fatigued. Our legs weren't under us. And Ole just did a fantastic job of finishing the job. So definitely a day and night difference there, but it was an experience, right? That halftime talk against Ole on the road was a positive one. We held them. I can't remember. If I remember correctly, it was maybe a 1-1 or a 2-2. It was definitely tied at the end of the first half. And so we took that with a positive feeling and emotion, and we just couldn't get it done that second half. But we were proud of ourselves, right? Win or lose, again, it all goes down to us just fighting together.
Yeah, yeah.
So the road to the finals goes through Grand Rapids and then potentially Lansing City if you win. What's the plan, knowing that both of the next two games would be in Michigan and would be travel competitions for you?
Because most of the games for the away games have been away, we're really not going to look at it any differently, right? We're just going to look at it the same. We just have to make that commitment, right? It's the last two games of the season, and it's time to see how bad we really want it. If we really want to get after it, if we really want to make a name, solidify ourselves among the top couple of teams in the league, we just have to make that full-on commitment, all hands in, and just make it happen. Just go out there and give it our best. Win or lose, I would say all of us on Ginga are very proud of ourselves. Satoru did a fantastic job this whole season. But yeah, I think we have that fire in our stomach. I think we got rid of that mental blunder that we were in when we were taking those losses back to back on the road. And I think that we can rally ourselves up. More than anything, we're just comfortable in our preparation. We give it our all in practice. If you think we are aggressive in the games, you should just see how our practices are. And it's you got to practice how you play, right? And so that's how we treat it. And again, Satoru being the strong leader that he is, make no mistake about it. When we do go to Michigan, whether it's Grand Rapids or Detroit, we're going to bring it our all. We're going to be all hands in, and we're just going to take the energy to the other teams that we're going to be facing up against. So we're very excited. We're very excited. We've been preparing really hard. We've been united more than ever. Again, we've been very positive, and I think that'll go a long way for us.
You mentioned earlier that the outlook at the beginning, the expectation at the beginning of the season was to take the next step. I think that was the word, right?
Right.
At what point did the playoffs come into view to say, hey, we've been taking the next step, and now we can set our eyes on making the top four? When did that happen?
I would say after the second to last home game, when we were going on that run where we were winning most of the home games, I would say that's when we start to have those conversations. Again, we don't want to look too far into the future. For like us as human beings, when we think ahead, we're thinking in the future, we're not being present. Or when we think in the past, you kind of lose yourself in the translation there. But we just try to focus on being present, again, taking the next step in front of us. But I would say the second to last home game, when we were accumulating those 3 points with most of the home games that we've had this season, I think that's when we started to all kind of look at ourselves and grin and kind of have that thought about the playoffs and say, hey, we really have a shot at this thing. Let's just see how we can do on the road, obviously taking into consideration that we had a thin squad. Players won't be able to make the commitment. But yeah, I would say closer to the end of the last two home games is when we start to think that as a group. But again, try not to think too much into the future and just take the next step.
Yeah.
Because no game is won, even on paper or not, right? You still have to show up and play for the 3 points.
That was kind of the moment when it was like you guys started to see that as a potential reality and started to kind of believe like, hey, we could be in the top 4.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Again, I would say the second to last home game, if not the last home game, we had a wonderful sending off, and we said, "Hey, let's just do this 5 more times on the road, and
Yeah.
let's see where we end at the end of this." When all the dust settles, I think we can make it. I think we have a shot at making it. And again, more than anything, was just about the preparation that we're doing. Again, try not to think too far into the future, but we definitely had those thoughts. Again, maybe the second to last home game, if not the last home game, where we said, hey, we really have a shot at making this thing.
Yeah.
Let's give it our all. Let's finish strong. Let's finish what we started.
Yeah.
But again, just trying to stay present at the same time is very difficult.
The last home game you guys played, that actually was a 5-2 win over Midwest United, this is who you guys face in the semifinals. What you split your series with them. The second time you played them, you dropped it 4-8 at their place in Grand Rapids. That's where you're going back again. Tell me about your guys' outlook for Midwest. What do you expect to see, and what's your guys' expectations for that game?
Sure. The expectation is to go out and compete the way we've been competing all year. Just remain focused mentally. Again, just listening to Saturo's instructions. I would say that second time around when we did go to Michigan to play Midwest, it was a little bit difficult. We weren't as thin as other games, but it was just a little bit difficult. We had a couple of players battling through stomach bugs, illnesses like that, myself included. I kind of sat after the game when we lost to Midwest, and I sat there for about an hour and a half on the court, just taking it all in, thinking to myself, this might be where we come back in the playoffs. So let me think about what happened here today. Let me think about how we can change it. Saturo does a fantastic job after each game. He reviews the video, and even before we get back to Cincinnati, he's already making tabs on minute marks of what we did right, what we did wrong. And so we've been piecing that together since that game was over on what to do differently and what not to do, and how we can continue to improve from those mistakes. And so I think we've just been revising those checkpoints, or those bookmarks, if you will, that Saturo made on that film, and just correcting that in training. Right. A lot of the training that we do, Saturo infuses those game situations. He'll even mention a minute mark in one of the games at trainings, and he'll do things like that where he'll make it real life, and we kind of review and revisit those plays and those errors so that we can fix them the second time around. So I think this next time around, it's a clean sheet. What happened already, and we know how close we are to being where we want to be. And so I feel like that also is a motivating factor to just let it go, let the past go, and just focus on the next task at hand. Again, taking the next step in front of us. I think a lot of our players are well rested. We're not really battling that many injuries this time around, and we're just hungry. We know where we stand among the teams and the FCS, and we know that we can take it a little bit further. We can take that next step, if we just apply ourselves a little bit deeper and just remain united. I think again, that's all we are. Is just a united group of players who are just trying this futsal thing out for the first time.
I'm sure Gerard is wondering this, and maybe people in the chat. What were you thinking in that hour and a half sitting on the court? Like, what was going through your mind?
I really was thinking about the positives. I was thinking about, because the first thing people do is when they take a loss, they start to get down on themselves, start to get negative. The questions start to come in, whether we're built for it, whether we can progress, whether we continue. So I really just took the positives away. One of the sad things was that I know that it was one of Tomi's last games. He was going back to Japan soon, so that was kind of in my mind as well. But I was taking the positives away, how we were able to create plays, how we were able to set up a certain attacks for ourselves, how we were able to implement some of the strategies that Saturo has been teaching us in trainings. That was my first thought process. And then again, my second thought process was this might be where we come back to get that revenge, right? This might be the place where we come back to make things right. There's rarely second chances in life, but if we do get a second chance, we have to make it right, and we have to take full advantage of that. And so that's one of the main things that I was thinking when I was there. I was like, okay, what can we improve on? Let's get back to work. Let's talk about it, but let's stay together. I feel like a lot of the times through adversity and trials and tribulations, that's when you start to see people's true colors. And I don't think we might have bent a little bit, but we never broke this season. And I feel like, again, that just a testament to the Japanese spirit of Satoru, Coach Satoru leading us, and just Ginga as a whole. We've been extremely united through the highs and the lows, and I feel like that's what's going to take us really far. And that's what I was thinking. Let's just stay together. Let's just clean this up. We'll train hard, and we'll have another go at this. If we do have another go at this, we'll make it right the second time around.
Well, you mentioned Tamisawa, and he's back in Japan now. Who's going to be in goal for you all?
I would say it'll be Gabe. If I'm not mistaken, it'll be Gabe. Or we also have Wes, who stepped up in the recent away games. He's had experience playing as goalkeeper as well. Between the two, I think most likely it'll be either Gabe or Wes. Again, I'm not sure exactly what decision Satoru wants to make as far as what that looks like. But we fully have trust in either of them. We have trust in both of them. That's one thing that Satoru emphasizes amongst each other as a group, is to just believe and trust each other, right? So yeah, it could either be Gabe or Wes. We did have Corey in goal a little bit at the beginning of the season, but Corey has a family to attend to. He has things going on as well, so I'm not sure what his availability is, but he would be another person or another option that we could have in goal that we would easily be comfortable with. But either one of those three or two, we're easily comfortable with, and we have full trust in. So no matter what that looks like, again, that's a Coach Satoru thing, his decision, but we're comfortable with either one. And yeah, we're just ready to go.
Yeah, and speaking about that, one of the questions we had, to your knowledge, will you all be at full strength for the match?
I would say for the most part, as far as our physical and no injuries, yes. As far as the numbers go, that's still a little bit of a gray area. I'm not sure what the availability is for maybe a quarter of the team, but for the most part, we will be. And the players that will go will work double if we have to. Again, we're not making excuses. We're not looking for anything like that, any sympathy or anything. We're just looking to play hard, play our game. This is another opportunity. This is a wonderful opportunity. Again, for a lot of us first timers here in futsal, this is a wonderful experience. It's been nothing but a blessing. And so we're going to look at it as such. And again, we're just going to make Ginga proud, make those kids back in Cincinnati proud, and just play our game. Win or lose, I think we can hold our head very high this season. Again, whether we take the 3 points or we don't, whether we make it far, we get past Midwest. I think we had a fantastic season. So yeah, we're just looking to get back on that court and just show the league that we belong there.
You talked about the fans and what it means to the Ginga fans. I want to ask this, kind of a side question, and then we'll get back to this playoff game. The most recent game at Detroit against Midwest, you guys had, I don't know, maybe it was like 30 or so people that were supporting your club at that game. And there's a couple of moments where you guys score a goal, Tamisawa's goal, and he runs all the way like to the fans, and he's like, and then the goal that came like 10 seconds after that, you guys are celebrating with the fans. What was that experience like to be so far away from home and yet be able to celebrate a goal with your 30 or so fans that were there?
It's truly a special feeling. I wasn't in attendance that game. I was watching from online as well, but it's truly a special feeling just to be able to have every game be a home game. And so it just really means a lot to us. Again, a lot of us have things to do. We have jobs, families to attend to. And so that support means the world to us. It means the world to us, whether it's from the academy level or just from our Japanese family in Michigan. We have a lot of fans in Michigan that are Japanese as well, supporting Ginga. So it just means the world. It's just really special that we have that kind of backing as a club outside of Cincinnati and in Michigan as well. And so it's incredible. It's very wholesome. It kind of gets us going. It's very, again, wholesome and warm, and it fills our cup up when we have that kind of support. It really means the world of a difference. As you can tell, the celebrations, we really cherish that, and we don't take that for granted. And again, that all goes back to Satoru teaching us at the beginning, that we have to, give thanks to all those who are supporting, give thanks to you guys who are setting up the streams. Again, shout out to Jen, who sets up the interviews and a lot of things that we have going on. We're always just very grateful. And I feel like that's a special thing when we have that kind of support and backing from fans outside of Cincinnati, all the way down there in Michigan. It makes our drive home a little bit more special, a little less heavy. But
That's
yeah,
great.
it means the world to us.
That's great. That's great. What, going back to this game that you guys are going to play against Midwest, you guys have seen them twice already. What do you think you guys need to do to come into their court, and their home base and get the win and go on to the finals? What is it about this Midwest team that you guys need to really put? I guess the way I would say it is like, how do you stop them? What are you looking for to try to stop them and try to do what you want to do and come away with a win there in Grand Rapids?
Midwest is a fantastic team. I think creatively, defensively, they're solid both on the offense and the defense side of the ball. Jose, their goalkeeper, is fantastic as well. Very strong leader, very vocal. I think the way we can attack and approach that game plan is to not bite so quickly. It's kind of like a boxing match. The first couple of rounds, you want to feel each other out, measure the distance, check the behaviors, the patterns. I think the biggest thing is a cerebral game from Ginga. I think we have to be extremely cerebral in the way we approach the attack, the high press, whether we sit low, whether we go pressure high. I think we have to not conserve, but we just have to be just thoughtful, extra cerebral, as I mentioned, in this game, because it's a playoff games. Emotions are going to be running high. Intensity is going to be high. The crowd's going to be going. We are away from home. I think the biggest thing that we have to do is just remain poised, take a deep breath, and then just lock in. We just have to dial in from the very first whistle to the very last and just stay together. I think when we stay together and we're poised and we play Ginga futsal, I think again, there's really no opponent we couldn't ask questions to, and so I think that's what we have to do, is just play a very, very cerebral game. It's very difficult on the other side of that coin, having that high intensity, to not lose focus or to not let the emotions take over. But I think we just have to maintain composure. We have to maintain composure, not let the occasion get to us, not let the lights get too bright. I think we just have to take a deep breath, keep that same high level of intensity. We have to be audacious, but we also have to be composed. Again, we have to be poised, and we have to be very smart about our moves. Again, it's like a chess match. We just have to make sure we take the best step and not the first step or the quickest step. And so I think that's the biggest thing, is it's a cerebral game for a lot of us. I feel like a lot of the season, we had moments where we kind of had lapses of concentration and focus in the games, and I think that cost us a lot, whether it be possession or goal or corner kick or kick in. I think the lapse of concentration, those intervals have been our big downfall this season. But if we can just remain on the same frequency and just maintain our composure, I think we can really give Midwest a run for their money, whether it's at home or away. I think we're excited, and I think we're going to rise to the occasion.
Yeah, love to hear it. Love to hear it. So if there's one thing that we walk away and Midwest was not able to do, and you all walk away with a win, what is that one thing that they weren't able to do?
I think just get a control of the game. I think if we stop them from controlling the game early on, and we disturb them, we disturb their flow, we disturb the crowd, we disturb their futsal, I think we'll be able to take hold of the reins there. And so that's what Ginga has to do. We just have to go, and we have to go there, and we kind of just have to take over. We just have to say, hey, you know what? We're going to take over from here. It's your home court. But we're here to take it to the next level. We're here to take it to the next step in the playoffs, and so we really have to just take a hold of that game mentally. And I think we'll be fine. I think we can make it a battle. It's already going to be a battle. Midwest is a fantastic team. They showed it the last game that we played. They're very creative. They're very strong. As Jose was saying, a lot of those players have played together for many, many, many years, and you can see it. You can see the way they attack. You can see the way they defend. They're all cohesive in their movements and their games. They're a fantastic team. But I feel like the love and respect that we have for each other as players in Ginga can stand past that time of experience that other teams have. And so it's kind of like my Ohio State Buckeyes. It's not for the hate of the other team, but it's for the love of your brother. And so I feel like that's going to be a big thing for us.
Well, you have a lot to celebrate in the football world, being an Ohio State fan. With you guys coming away with the, I know there's at least one other Ohio State fan in the chat. I'm sure he'll pop up pretty soon. But you guys win this game against Midwest United. You go to the FCS finals. There it is. OH, he says.
IO.
There it is. There it is. If you guys win this game against Midwest, not this Saturday, but the next on March 22nd, you guys will make it to the FCS finals. First year as a club in this league, for you, first year playing futsal. For many people playing futsal, kind of the first time playing futsal. What would that mean to you guys and Ginga as a club to make it to the finals this year?
More than anything, I think it would mean a lot to the academy players watching us back at home. Again, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Derek and John. Shout out to Derek and John from Ginga, TJ Manning and Satoru, and all the other coaches behind the scenes making things run the way it is running, the way it has been running over the years. It's a fantastic club, and I feel like more than anything, more for maybe the newer players into futsal who can't really seem to appreciate it as much, I think it would mean a lot more to those kids, those academy level children watching us. I think it just sets a tone and it sets a bar for them because they're fantastic as is. But us setting that bar, us showing them that it's possible, whether you're 10 years in or 1 month in, it's possible. Anything is possible. One of the questions that Jen asked me in my player bio is if I had any advice I would give to a younger player or my younger self, it would be to believe in yourself. And I think that's what we show as a club, Ginga, in this league, is that we believe in ourselves, whether we've been playing futsal for 20 years or 1 year or 1 month. I think that translates more than anything. Hard work beats talent when talent isn't hardworking. And so, again, that sets the tone. And I feel like the biggest thing that we could take away if we were to get past Midwest would be that we're setting the tone for the younger generations, right? We really care about the youth academy. We really care about all the teams, the girls, the boys watching us back at home in Cincinnati. That means the most for us. And I think, again, because some of us are new to futsal, we may not appreciate what this opportunity looks like. But I think they certainly do, and they're certainly watching us. And so I think
Really cool.
that would mean the most.
Really cool. Well, we got one more question for you, and then we'll let you go here. I know you've been kind of around and with us for more than you bargained for with our connectivity issues. And to be honest, I kind of lost because of that. I lost my time in my head, how long. So I'm I have no idea how long we've been doing this interview. So I'm we probably need to wrap it up. It's 10:30, and we still got one more segment to do. So if you had to, the same question I asked Jose at the end of his interview. If you had to look, someone in the eyes who was, thinking about either coming to your game or watching the semifinal game, if you had to look in the eyes, and they say, "Hey, why should we watch this game? Why should we watch you guys play?" What are you telling them?
I would say it's just a showing of just character, respect, honor, integrity, and just passion. Again, like Jose said, he said it perfectly. I think not just Ginga or Midwest or Ole or Detroit, it's just passion all around. We have a deep, profound respect for each other as players, as teams, as coaches, but we also respect the talent. One baller respects the other baller. It doesn't matter what colors you're wearing. And I feel like that's what I would say to someone is look at this group, look at this league of players who can coexist and respect, but also push each other to the highest level with talent, with integrity, with character, and show what we can do and how we can build this league. Something Jose said that I really enjoyed was that you guys are doing a fantastic job growing this league as well. And we're very excited about that. It goes into what I was talking about with the academy players and the youth level. We're very excited to see the expansion that the FCS is doing. And to be a part of that is something special. And I would tell someone who wants to come to the game or is thinking about it, come look at something that's growing. Come look at a group of people who are putting all their efforts, all hands in to make something bigger than themselves flourish and really grow. And I think it's special what this league is going to do within the next couple of years. And just being a part of it, getting a small slice of that cake is a blessing. Again, we're very grateful to be a part of the league. We're very thankful for you guys, everyone behind the scenes making everything happen, the other teams, the other coaches. We're just all soaking it all in, and we're just very thankful to be a part of it. Something bigger than ourselves is fantastic.
Well, it's been great to have you guys be a part of this league. And I accidentally lied. That wasn't the last question.
But I have one.
I actually was gonna throw it to you for the last question, but I had one more question I wrote down that I forgot. So surprise, 2 more questions. Mine and then his. So you talked about a little bit right there, futsal in the future and the expansion teams, and how many of you players for Ginga have first time playing futsal, including yourself. Do you see yourself continuing to play futsal for Ginga, in the future?
Absolutely. I feel like I drank the Kool-Aid very early on. I think me getting a taste of helping out with coaching with the academy players, whether it's the girls or the boys, I absolutely fell in love with what's going on, this project, this club, what's going on in the league, the FCS. I absolutely will play until my feet fall off. It's something very wonderful. For a long time, I had to step away from soccer, not futsal, but soccer because of injuries and things like that, life kind of getting in the way. And I've always thanked Satudo for reaching out to me, for showing up to that Sunday league game, because it just revived that love that I had, that I knew always existed, but kind of was distant. And so, of course, if Ginga needs me to step back on the court next year, or go coach a tournament for the youth level, I'm willing to answer that phone call whenever that may be, whatever that looks like. But yeah, it's been a blessing to be a part of this club, and of course, I'll go wherever the wind takes us, and I'll be a Ginga supporter for the rest of my life, I would say.
Do you expect the same from your comrades that are in the same boat as you with like futsal experience? You think they'll keep playing too?
I think so. I think the way that we've been able to gravitate this sort of hunger and this desire to push ourselves to become better players, but also be honorable men, I think that's very attractive for a lot of our players. So I would say so. And if that's not something that they're interested in, then we're fine with that as well, right? We built relationships outside of the futsal that I think will last a very long time, and that means more than anything, right? All futsal aside, the relationships that we built with each other as a team, but the relationships that we built with you guys, Jen, the other teams, the players from the other clubs, that means a lot more, right? It's bigger than ourselves. So I think that's the most attractive thing, is just the network, and also just the camaraderie that you see throughout the FCS.
Awesome. Well, actual last question.
Yeah,
probably.
Last question. It came from the chat. So the last question came from the chat. They're checking out your bio. What emoji best represents you? And you said a gorilla. Why?
I've been practicing sign a lot. I've been talking to a lot of people who speak sign. They teach it in school, but I don't think it's not as important as other subjects. I think gorillas are tenacious, but they're also very loving, and they're leaders. They're protectors, they're providers. They're very intelligent animals. At the same side, on the other side of that coin, they do have that strength. They do have that aggression, and I feel like that's just me in a nutshell. Again, I'm a mixed martial artist. I think the biggest thing that I can take away from being a part of the mixed martial arts world is, the more control you have, the more poise you have, the more respect and compassion that you gain as well for others and yourself. And so I said that gorilla because the sign language aside, which is something that I am learning. I think just being courageous, being a leader, being very loving, at the same time having that sort of strength and honor is always something that I've been about. It kind of represents me pretty accurately, I would say.
Any follow-ups?
I mean,
the actual last one.
Yeah, no, that was the last one.
That was the actual last one. All right, fantastic. Well, Giuliani, thank you so much for spending half your whole evening with us here tonight and working through the technical issues. And all of you in the chat watching Giuliani in this interview, thank you so much as well. We have one more segment where we're going to recap last week's games, a small preview for what's to come. But for now, we're going to say goodbye to Giuliani Campos. Thank you so much for tuning in, not tuning in, but being here with us. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, for being a part of it.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Thank you, Jared. Thank you, Gerard. Thank you, Jen. Thank everyone at FCS. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me on behalf of Ginga. We appreciate all that you guys have done this year. And we look forward to staying with you, locking arms, rubbing elbows, and moving into the future and what that looks like for the league. So again, thank you so much to you guys. And it's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Well, we will hopefully see you in person for that Grand Rapids game at Midwest in just a week and a few days.
Absolutely. You guys take care.
All right. See you later, Giuliani. Awesome. So we have a brief commercial break we're going to go to, and then, Gerard, we're going to talk about a couple of games this weekend. One in particular that sticks out from the rest. One in particular that was not a double-digit game, and that's the one that we're going to be focusing on. So don't go anywhere.
Committing a crime so you can try to escape from prison. Bad idea. Go into the pod escape room to play an escape game with your friends. Great idea. Test your skill as an astronaut in outer space. Find Santa in Save Christmas. Or take a vacation to an abandoned island. Just don't get stuck there. The Pod Escape Room. Learn more at thepodlansing.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the third half by the FCS Live team. Jared Kleppel, Gerard Ascani, your hosts. We just got done with a couple of segments, awesome interviews with Jose Vicario of Midwest United and Julianie Campos of Ginga FS. Those two teams are going to be clashing in the semifinals next Saturday, March 22nd in Grand Rapids. I believe it's going to be at Aquinas College at 6 p.m. We're gonna preview those upcoming playoff games in just a bit. But first, Gerard, we have a few games that happened this weekend. We just want to recap them briefly before we end this episode. There were two games that surrounded one game on Saturday that was very, very exciting, and the two games that were around it were just it was 20-2 and 19-0, right? So let's start with the first one. Ole taking on Midwest, and they win by 18.
It was really a tune-up game. That's what it was for them, just to try out a couple of new things. They had some injuries, some absences that they were able to switch up some of the lines, and it really set them up for success against Lansing City.
So Ole put up 20 goals.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was – did we – say that was the most all season?
Yep, it was the most.
Okay, the only time anyone got to that 20 marker. However, the largest margin of victory was not 18. It was actually when Midwest played Midwest the next day, they won 19-0.
Yep. Yeah, and so in a very similar fashion, this was like a tune-up game for Midwest United going into the playoffs, and they got to work on a few things. Like Jose Vicario shared, he wasn't there, so they had a goalkeeper that hadn't featured a lot for them all year, but he did a fantastic job, and they were able to change some things up and work with some new lines, and, they played exactly how we would expect them to play, and they also put up the largest goal differential all season.
And so both those games, both teams, their playoff fates were already settled. Midwest was out, and Ole and Midwest both already in with the home court advantage. So those games, one on Friday night, one on Saturday night. But right in between them was Lansing City's last home game and Ole's last game of the year. Before we roll the recap video, how crazy was that one?
Yeah, going into the game, we said this would be the game of the season, and we weren't disappointed. There were so many moments in this game, and I think you struggled building the highlight clip for it because there were so many. You can't condense it down.
Yeah.
And it's like there's so much to share about and to talk about. Wow, what a game. It's a disappointing result for Lansing City, but it was just another example of the work that Ole has done to really, cement their claim to being the best team in the FCS.
And even though their playoff, fates were secure, we heard in the interviews afterwards, like they really wanted to win this game.
Yeah, they did.
And that was the atmosphere that was out there. I mean, it was a playoff game for Lansing City, and it felt like a playoff game for both teams out there. Let's run that clip. So this is Lansing City hosting Grand Rapids Ole. In the first couple of minutes, Lansing City through Barney gets an opportunity pretty close, but Mendoza kicks it away. And then a couple minutes later, it's Chris Mendez who goes the toe poke to the near post. But the next play, a great ball into the pivot, and Barney again, a few meters out, is blocked by Mendoza. And this was a little bit of the story for Lansing City in this early part of the half. They had a couple opportunities there, and this one also for Ole. Conrad Gonzalez, the right place at the right time, gets his body in front. And then here, just a little bit wide for Pablo Real. And then at 10:30, Grand Rapids Ole gets going with Aaron Gomez beating Gonzalez to the near post. And this is the one that really deflated Lansing City. Poor technical touch there from Gonzalez. And on that one, he doesn't do the kick save. And so Sammy Esquivel gets goal number 3. And Mendez with a shot, but Ole are not going out of the half without another one. So they rack up 4 goals in the first half. Lansing City still with some opportunities, getting some 1v keepers, but going to the second half, Conrad Gonzalez is called upon early a couple of times. And this one off the post for Cesar Alayo. He definitely sure wishes he had that one back. He has another opportunity here, and Gonzalez makes another save. And now look at this shot from Kleppel. The free kick just barely missing the upper 90. He has another one here that goes to Luciano Cernuda at the back post. He can't quite get that one to deflect the right way. And now it's, the other way. Cesar Alayo, that was probably the biggest miss that we saw all game. Lansing City, however, with 5 minutes to go in the game, gets on the board. And then Gonzalez making a couple of saves. However, in this one, after he makes the save, he has 2 saves there. And then just a few seconds later, he's able to make one, but the follow-up from Pablo Real is too much. And that was goal number 5. At that point, it was tough for Lansing City to get back into it, but they weren't going to go away. As you can see here, Fisher with the win, and Luciano Cernuda with just an absolute dime of a shot. And then check out this play. Jeremy Kleppel on the near side. He's got 1, 2, 3 guys. He gets by him, and the finish by Luciano Cernuda. We couldn't even see that in real time at first, and then we saw it on the replay. We went nuts in the booth, and that was goal number 3. Just after the kickoff, Lansing City gets the 6th foul, and Kleppel is denied by Josh Pierce to keep at a 2-goal lead. And then this was a little bit of a controversial play. Luciano Cernuda looks like it gets taken out by Josh Pierce. However, there was no call on that one. And Ole continues with the 5-3 victory, ending Lansing City's season and playoff hopes right then and there. So Gerard, it ended 3-5. We didn't see the first goal until about 10 minutes into the first half. And then in the second half, we didn't see a goal until I think it was like 4 or 5 minutes to go. But in spite of that, there were a lot of moments that were very exciting. I mean, the crowd was very into it. What were the things that stuck out to you a lot about this game?
So it's not just the goals that are the exciting moment, and that's why we had Jose Vicario here, because Frankie Mendoza, wow, he put on a show in that first half, and that was something. When we talked about him being the leader in save percentage and him not playing as many minutes, it's not because of talent. It's not like he's not playing because he's not good enough and so he's splitting time. That's just the plan that Fabian Rodriguez has, is to split time with all of his goalies. And so for me, seeing that he doesn't get as many saves as some of the other goalies in the league, that game was really a testament to his performance. And, we were talking about it during the game and before the game that the goalies were really going to set the tone for that night, and they did. And it was really a battle between Conrad Gonzalez and Frankie Mendoza back and forth. And really it was like who flinched first, and Conrad let in a couple of goals, and that was really the difference in that game.
Yeah, it was. Those were some unfortunate mistakes from Conrad, but later on in the game, we saw him getting hyped for a couple of saves he made. He did make a few very important ones. I mean, we saw one on the goal line in the first half, and then late in the game, if that follow-up doesn't come to be goal number 5, I mean, he made the first save, and it was really just, the Lansing City defender, I think it was Robeson, that, just kind of fell asleep there. So if that doesn't happen, the saves that he makes, critical, keep Lansing City in the game. And, it could have been 4-4 if Kleppel converts the 6-foul penalty.
Yeah, it definitely could have been. I mean, there's outstanding play both ways, right? When we talked about the Kleppel effect, one of the things that Fabian Rodriguez designed was a way to prevent the ball being at Kleppel's feet. And we saw that for most of the game, they'd have to force pressure. On that clip that you showed with that outstanding effort he had going down the sideline, they had 3 defenders on him. So, they're doing everything they can to get the ball away from him, and he still beat the pressure, went down and got the assist to potentially the goal of the season to Luciano.
Yeah, that one was amazing. Luciano has definitely had a couple of potential goal of the seasons. Maybe we'll have to, since there's no game this weekend, maybe we'll have to put together like a list of the top goals of the year, and we could play that next week maybe and have a little vote on it. That'd be pretty cool. There's been some cool ones. From the Ole side, we talked about how it was clear from the interview at the end of the game with Aaron Gomez. Actually, no, it was
Jair Real. And he scored that first goal for them as well.
Yes,
that was Jair.
That was Jair. Yeah, that was my mistake. He's number 9.
Yeah.
Aaron's number 6.
Yeah.
And Aaron's going to be on the show next week. So that was what was going on in my mind. So, yes, it was Jair Real. But he mentioned in the post-game interview that, Ole had already clinched. They were already going to be the 1 seed. They were already going to have home court advantage, but they really wanted to win this game.
Yeah.
And they played like it. What stood out to you about their play in this game?
We talked about this during the game is really top to bottom, their talent level. Like every player on that team is committed to the team mentality. It's not like individual players that stand out. Like, yes, Jair stands out. Sammy Esquivel stands out. We just talked about Frankie Mendoza standing out. So they have players that stand out, but they work together. And that's the part. When you think about the 5 goals that they scored, 5 different players scored those goals. And it was really how they worked together cohesively as a team. And when you think about Ole throughout the entire season, they limit other teams offensively in a way that no other team does. And it's because of that defensive structure and the way that they communicate together.
And, it's something that I thought was interesting with that tough Ole defense, particularly in the first half for Lansing City, there were, we saw in the highlight clip, there was several moments where it was a 1v keeper, and it wasn't like an all alone, breakaway, but it was like they got in behind and, the angle was tough and Mendoza cut it off. But I feel like there was more of those than I expected. Even like watching the game back, I was like, wow, I feel like Lansing City actually had like maybe better chances in the first 10 minutes of the game, having these kind of chances on goal. And Ole had their own too, but did that surprise you to see that?
It didn't really surprise me because one of the things we talked about the Midwest game being a tune-up for them because they had so many line changes. And so because Lito Esquivel wasn't there, Adrian Diaz is still hurt. And so when you think about the Diaz twins, how they play so well together, and then Lito Esquivel not being there, both of those first lines, and Cesar Martinez wasn't there either, both of the first 2 lines they don't have their full players that were working together all season long. And so I wasn't really surprised by it. I mean, they played great, but remember, that's complete upheaval because unlike Lansing City has this basically it's almost like this musical chairs with Lansing City. You can basically put any player in any line, and they already know what to do, and they're going to be great. Grand Rapids Ole has set lines. They don't just interchange everybody into every line. And so they spend so much time working together. and they build a solid foundation on each individual line. And so now when we're creating the complete variance on the lines, that was a lot for them to work through over the last couple of games of the season. And so I wasn't really surprised, but it really was a testament to even Frankie Mendoza to be able to clear up all of those opportunities.
Now, Grand Rapids Ole, they are looking ahead to take on Detroit Imperial, which, reminder, next week, we're going to do the same thing that we did today, but with a player from Detroit Imperial and Grand Rapids Ole. And we'll be, I already said it was Aaron Gomez is going to plan to be on here. For Detroit Imperial, we'll plan to have Michael Forbes on the show. So those are the two that you can look forward to next week. But for Grand Rapids Ole going into Detroit, what do you think? They've beat them twice, home and away. The home game looked a lot different than the one away.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the one away, Depoche got sent off in that game. What is Grand Rapids expecting in this one, in this semifinal match on March 23rd?
I mean, an intense battle. Like they're expecting Detroit Imperial to bring everything that they have, and so what we've talked a lot about this. We talked with Jose Vicario about this tonight with composure. We talked to Giuliani Compos about the mentality and like the mental aspect of futsal, and that's one of the things that Detroit Imperial has the ebbs and flows all season with. And if they can bring the right level of mentality to be aggressive but to be controlled, they stand a chance. But if they don't, and if they lose composure, and it goes back to that game in Futsal Sala against Grand Rapids Ole, they were winning 3-1. They were playing outstanding in that game, and then one moment in the game completely changes everything. Depoche gets sent off with the red card, and they just weren't the same team. And if you look at the splits in that game, before the red card and after the red card, two completely different games. And then even going into the game a couple of weeks later in Grand Rapids, there was almost this lingering impact of all of that emotion from the first game. And if you look at the first half and the second half in Grand Rapids, you see two different teams. And it was almost as if Detroit Imperial just didn't have that just that intensity level. Like they were able to be composed, but they didn't bring that same level of intensity. And so that's the part for them. If I'm Pierce and I'm having a conversation with my team, it's trying to figure out how do we unlock that intensity to really play the way we are, but to do it in such a way that we don't lose our composure and we don't get yellow cards and red cards and totally change the dynamic of the game.
That game is going to be on March 23rd at Grand Rapids. I think it's actually a different location than they normally have. But we're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a second. But I just want to back up for a second and close the book for Lansing City this year. They didn't make the playoffs. This was the game they needed a win or a draw. It was looking favorable toward them with their goal differential and their advantage there. But they didn't make it in. So for you, Gerard, what are the how do you close this chapter for the year for Lansing City?
This was a year about development for Lansing City, and they showed a lot of fantastic effort. So again, we were just talking about Grand Rapids Ole potentially being the best team in the States, right? And Lansing City played with them throughout. They didn't have Trezor Crispain, and Jack Fisher was just coming back from injury, right? And so when you think about some of those components, they played an excellent match. They lost, but they still played excellent. So much so that when Jair gets up at the end of the game and he's doing the interview and we're trying to find out about him and the performance of Ole, he's praising Lansing City, right, for everything that they did, for the way they played. And so it really is a testament to the work that they put in and the growth that they've had throughout the season.
And that is how Lansing City will close their chapter in the FCS this year, not making the playoffs along with Midwest FC. Last comment about Lansing City, what do you expect to see from them next year in FCS 2025-26?
More of the same. Continued development. They have a really young squad. Luciana Cernuda is only 17. Jack Fisher is 16. When you think about Drew Barney, 16 as well. Like, so many talented players. Ethan Castaneda, he's 16 as well. Like, so many young players that give them another 4 to 6 months to develop going into next season. And, wow, they're going to be a team to reckon with next year.
think the question for them is going to be, how far along does that development go between, the end of their season here and the beginning of the next? Will there be, I almost kind of expect there to be a jump at some point, right? With the maturity level rising, and not just like an age, but also these guys growing into men and growing into men bodies, and I mean that was one of the things they faced all year was just like size differences and weight differences, and it's like, is this going to be the off season where there's kind of this jump? We'll have to see. But I know I'm excited to see what they bring next year. Bummed to not see them in the playoffs. I mean, any of you know I used to play for Lansing City. My heart is always with Lansing City. I've always said that on camera and on stream. So I'm bummed that we won't see them. But, I think we're going to have some great games in the playoffs. We talked about we talked a little bit about both these throughout the stream tonight. March 22nd and 23rd. Let's just take a quick look. I think I have the graphic. Oh, yeah, there it is. So these are the 2 playoff games that are coming up. It's not this weekend, but the next. So Saturday the 22nd, Midwest United is going to host Ginga in Grand Rapids. That one starts at 6 p.m. Our live stream coverage is going to plan to start right around 20 or 30 minutes before kickoff. The next day is the second semifinal. Grand Rapids Ole hosts Detroit Imperial at 5:30 on a Sunday. And that's the 2 semifinals. And from there, we'll get our 2 finalists, and they will play the very next Saturday. So either 7 or 6 days from this. What are you expecting to see, across these games? What do you think is going to come out and be in the finals?
Yeah, I mean, even just looking at the standings right there, for me, it's pretty clear the teams that are going to win. It's Midwest United and Grand Rapids Ole. They've been the most consistent teams all season, and I think we are going to see more of the same. It's one of the things that's always been tough for both Detroit Imperial and Ginga when they go on the road and when they play on different court size. I know Ginga, the court size for their main court is similar, but for Detroit Imperial it's not. And so for them, it's
Ginga, when they played Ole,
they played on the small court.
Yeah, and when they played Midwest, it was
small
on a small court.
Yeah. Yeah, and so when you think about coming to Grand Rapids, they're going to make that 6-7 hour journey. That's going to be hard, and that's one of the things that Giuliani talked about. I do expect them to be competitive matches. Like I fully expect them to be thoroughly competitive, but I expect Midwest United and Grand Rapids Ole to walk away with them.
I would have to agree with you. I do think the Grand Rapids teams are going to take it in the semifinals, and I think we're going to have a Grand Rapids clash for the finals, which would be super fun. I mean, they've both brought out like fan bases to all their games, and I think the Lansing City Arena where the finals are going to happen is not that far of a drive. So I think it could make for a really, really exciting atmosphere here.
One of the things, Giuliani talked about this a lot too, in those matches against Midwest United and Grand Rapids Ole, they almost like lost their legs in the second half, And when you think about both of those teams in Grand Rapids run 3 lines, right? And so they have so much talent on those teams.
Yeah.
So I fully anticipate the first 20 to 30 minutes being really competitive, and then Midwest and Grand Rapids pulling away late.
I do think when you said before about the changes in both Ginga on the road and Detroit Imperial on bigger court, I mean, I think those are things that I've seen throughout this year. And I think that, maybe they'll surprise us. Maybe Ginga and Detroit Imperial will surprise. But I don't think there's going to be surprises, and I think it's going to be Ole and Midwest. I think I'm leaning towards a more comfortable margin than maybe you are, I think, in that one. And maybe, it's the playoffs, right?
Yeah,
if I'm a player in the playoffs, doesn't matter what seed I am. I mean, March Madness tournament, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but hey, I just did. The great basketball tournament in the month that we're in right now the seeds don't matter, and you just go out and you're playing, and so there's an extra level that can be brought, and because of that, like, you expect it to be competitive, just based on the things that I've seen, particularly in the most recent games this year between these teams and the challenges they're facing. I definitely have a heavy favor for who I think is going to win. I think it's going to be the Grand Rapids teams.
Well, the one thing that we can't go unnoticed is the fact that Ginga and Detroit Imperial, neither of those teams has a winning record.
Right.
That means that there's actually more pressure on both of the Grand Rapids teams because everyone expects them to win because they have shown that consistency the whole season. And what makes March Madness so special is it comes down to one game. Whoever shows up for that game takes it all.
Yep.
Right? You know, you win or go home. And it's one of the things that Matt Alishari talked about last week.
Yeah.
Was that this is the way that every player, every athlete, they want to be in this position, that win or go home. And so for Midwest United and Grand Rapids Ole, they play great all season, but that doesn't matter anymore.
Yep.
Whatever happens Saturday and Sunday, that's it. This
Both
is the
teams
season.
come in.
Yeah.
Both teams come in 0-0. You're 0-0. You're coming in. You play one game and you go on to the finals, or you go home. That's going to be the playoffs, March 22nd and 23rd. Quick preview for next week. The Journey Part 2. This is going to be the other side of the semifinals, Grand Rapids Ole versus Detroit Imperial. We're going to be talking with Aaron Gomez of Grand Rapids Ole and Michael Forbes of Detroit Imperial to hear about the journeys of their teams and how they have come to where they are in the FCS semifinals and where they expect to go. So don't miss that next week. And then, of course, that weekend is the semifinals. And then the weekend after that, we're already at the finals. We're already here at the tail end of the season. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Third Half podcast. Jared Kleppel, Gerard Ascani. Gerard, last word.
Oh, I'm not ready. Last word?
Oh, he's not ready. This is the first time you've ever not been ready. You always have.
Oh, no.
You were in the – I was like wrapping up, and you're like, okay, we're off camera.
Yeah, we're done. We're done.
Last word.
Last word. It's more than a word, but what we are so compelled and moved with the third half with goalies. Has anybody noticed this? No matter what, it's all about the goalies on this show. We always bring the goalies in. And next week, of course, Michael Forbes. Can't wait to see him and talk to him. I want to talk to him about how do we get the most out of him and Emerson Mena at the same time, because, wow, we talked about Midwest United's goalies and how incredible they are. Talked about Ole's goalies. Detroit Imperial, they have some standout goalies there.
They absolutely do. That's going to be next week on the Third Half podcast on Thursday night right here. Maybe we'll take it to 11 o'clock next week. I don't know. But this is us signing off for the night. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you later.
Committing a crime so you can try to escape from prison. Bad idea. Go into the pod escape room to play an escape game with your friends. Great idea. Test your skill as an astronaut in outer space. Find Santa in Save Christmas. Or take a vacation to an abandoned island. Just don't get stuck there. The Pod Escape Room. Learn more at thepodlansing.com.